Well, I believe we're just inviting everyone back into the rooms. Welcome, everybody. We're excited to have another company to be looking for. There's a lot of great companies that are going to be within this video conference. And once again, we're going to be with Teo Dechev. We are going to really take a deep dive into your company today. That's what I love about this. You're going to be able to have a chance to talk about your management team. You're going to be talking about the different properties. What are the metals that you're looking into? What are the different things that you're doing within the company that you're leading? So very, very excited for that. As we've been saying in every single webinar as well, please, we'd love to hear you in the chats. We'd love to see comments from you. Once again, we're all like-minded investors. We're taking time out of our day to find these various companies, to speak with executives, ask them questions. So speak with one another. You found people just like you. Then also in the Q&A side, that's where those questions are going to go. If you have any questions through any time of this presentation, please put the questions in there. We'll be sure it's going to be about 25 minutes or so to go through a detailed presentation. There's going to be a few videos in there as well. And then we're going to get to the questions after the fact, but we'll get through as many questions as we can before this ends. And then lastly, before I shut off my camera, and really, Teo, they're here to hear from you. But before we do that, I'm just going to quickly share this right now. In the handout section, you will have seen a little red dot right beside that. On your device, you can now download this presentation so that you can follow along, but also have that for yourself as well. So without further ado, Teo, I'm going to throw it over to yourself, and you just let me know when you need some of those videos switched over, but also when I need to come back and we can go over all those questions today.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Brandon. We are really excited to be able to present to your investor network. We've heard a lot of great things about the investment community that you guys host. I generally, when I do a presentation, I love to get interaction from the audience. So, one of my favorite questions to ask people is, have you invested before in Eastern Europe? And what are you thinking about right now in terms of the types of companies and commodities you're looking for? And I would suggest just add it to the chat room, and I will periodically look over and see if I can answer questions as well. So to start off with, I'm the president and CEO of Mundoro. I will be going through forward-looking statements. That's an important part of what we do in the business, so please take note. And I'm going to start off with a high-level overview, just to give you a sense of why Mundoro and why now in the marketplace. So first of all, to focus on the commodities, we are looking at copper and gold. That has been our primary focus for well over a decade. We do look at strategic land packages in established mining jurisdictions. So what's very important to us is to actually build out more resource opportunities, discovery opportunities in camps that already have infrastructure and a lot of the community support. So that's an important part of our model. Partnering with senior producers, that's what we've been doing for the last 5 years consistently. Two of our partners today are Jogmec and Vale. And this is actually a really important part of our business model, which I'm going to come back to a little bit later. We also generate revenue from our portfolio. That's an important part of our strategy. We are a royalty generator. There are many different names of generator companies out there, but really our end goal is to establish royalties on world-class deposits that can add significant value to our company and to our shareholders. And I can again go through that a little bit later in the presentation. Our pipeline is quite good. We have currently joint venture partners, earn-in partners, option partners, and of course, we do have projects that are available for optioning today, as well as applications in the local jurisdictions for more properties. And of course, our team is geared on looking for and hunting for those next opportunities, as well as working with our partners to establish discoveries on the existing land packages. So with that, I'm going to kind of focus now on what does the global picture look like. This is our project portfolio. We are very focused on Eastern Europe, which is the western portion of this, which is called the Tethian belt. And you can see here that the Tethian belt runs right from kind of, let's call it Central Europe, right through the Stans into Asia and right down into Southeast Asia. Now, this is a very well-known and established mineral belt. It's very comparable also to the belt that runs from, let's call it from Alaska, that runs all the way down Canada, the west coast, through the US, Mexico, and then obviously down in South America. And what we call that is two tectonic structures that are colliding, creating a ridge where there's a lot of volcanic activity, and that's where you get a lot of these types of porphyry and epithermal systems. So this, what a lot of people don't know, is actually the Asian continent colliding with the African continent and the subcontinent here. That's an important feature. And what you'll see along the Tethian belt here is all these dots. Those dots represent mineral deposits. Now, it looks like when you look at this belt, there's not a lot in the center, but really it's because a lot of people and a lot of companies haven't gone exploring in that part of the world because it is quite difficult to access. Having said that, there is a lot of copper resources and a lot of gold resources on this belt. And where we as a company really focused in on in order to generate the most value out of this opportunity is here in the western portion, which is in Eastern Europe. This part of the world has excellent road network, excellent rail. You pretty much can't go anywhere without some kind of cellular connectivity, which is quite great when you're out mapping and prospecting. It also has really long established history with mining, and that's extremely important because there is very good community support. So it's no accident that we've ended up in the western portion of the Tethian belt. It's been very methodical in terms of why we're there, and really our number one goal is to establish these land packages so that we can bring in partners and create another important discovery for this district. We do have one project for optioning in Mexico. And of course, we do have a legacy investment in the Mundoro Gold Project, which is in China, which is primarily owned by China National Gold. Now, the next slide, we're going to just focus in on our business model. The exploration business is important. It is a business, and it is important that it's run effectively. And that's something that's been, kind of one of our founding principles. We generate attractive land packages in proven mining camps. So that's why they're strategic locations. We do focus in on copper and gold. And as a result of that strategy, we've been able to attract leading industry partners. The partners sole fund the operations. So that's really attractive to us because we leverage about $4 to $5 million every year of exploration expenditures, which are primarily from the partners. And that allows us to really maintain and keep our dilution very low so that we're not really going out to the capital markets on a regular basis. And really the important part here is that it generates attractive royalties for us. We get operator fees for running a lot of these operations for our partners. We can also get option payments. We can get advanced royalty payments, milestone payments. And of course, we can always consider direct sale of assets. So that's an important feature that we think is really helpful to make sure that that 10-bagger opportunity that is called in the industry can exist. So when you compare our model, which is the royalty generator model, to the traditional royalty company, really what we're doing is we're establishing those land packages with our ideas and our team and a small amount of our capital. Those projects are established. We build the relationships with the local communities. We build the relationships with the local governments. We understand how to operate in these jurisdictions. And then we create those targets that can be drilled. And that's where the partners come on board. And it's a really great opportunity for both sides. And in return, we get all the different types of payments that I just identified, as well as that lucrative NSR royalty. Whereas the traditional royalty model really leverages the balance sheet in order to purchase royalties from already existing operations or perhaps development operations that could go into production in the future. Now, this is a part of the market that has gotten a lot of interest, certainly over the last couple of years. We started to see really a flood of companies that are coming into this business model. And I think that's really important. Having more choice and seeing more opportunities and how everyone operates is a great thing for investors. We've tried to give a little bit of structure to a lot of the companies that are in this space. And what we've done here is we've really just compared them on a revenue basis, the top line. Unfortunately, right now, a lot of this segment does not make positive cash flows because everyone's building out their portfolio, and certainly in the future that's expected. And certainly the juniors, they're not cash flow positive, and we sit on that stream. But we've been able to generate more than our peers in terms of revenue from our portfolios. We've also been growing at about 56% a year over year for the last 3 years in generating revenue from our portfolio. So it's an attractive portfolio, and it has the ability to generate a lot of really good wealth for our shareholders. Which what it basically translates to is that we're not going out in the market as frequently, and we are basically maintaining that dilution, which allows shareholders to get a better return when there is a discovery or an important catalyst that occurs in the stock. And certainly more partners is one of those types of catalysts. The next important point to bring up is that, we've been growing over the last 4 years, and this basically shows you the power of this model of partner funding, and as well as our revenue stream growing up as well. So just on a comparative basis, we're one of the lowest in the industry, probably the lowest, at 15% of our total expenditures annually are for G&A versus our industry peers, which are around 44%. So we're really maximizing the amount of money going in the ground in order to generate those returns and those opportunities for our shareholders. Another important point, in terms of what our investor profile looks like, we have about 53% institutionally held company. That's kind of unique for juniors, but we think it's a testament to the model and to the ideas and to certainly the Tethian belt, and of course the partner profile. Groups that are invested with us are Sprott out of the US, Adrian Day, Don Smith, Equinox Funds. There's probably a couple of other groups there that's missing. From the European side, we have Roofer, which is a really well-known asset management group in the UK. Gold 2000, we have Family Office in Canada, which has been a stable shareholder. And of course, Altius, which is themselves a royalty company in Eastern Canada. In terms of research coverage, as we are a small cap, we really have a good audience from Exploration Insights, eResearch, Cantor Fitzgerald covered us while they still had a European division, but that's been closed down. And so we think there's a healthy amount of good third-party research, as well as really strong institutional support for the company. Our balance sheet is around 2.4 million in cash, and certainly we don't have a particular need for capital at this time. In terms of the management and the board, this is a board that's been with us for a number of years. Nick is the most recent addition to our board, and he's based out of the UK and an ex-analyst from Canaccord, and really knows that European marketplace, which we think is important, as that shareholder base is an important group for us. On the exploration side, the team has decades and decades of experience in the Tethian belt, and specifically with porphyry and epithermal systems. And that's where our technical advisors come in. This is a fantastic group that has helped us, really filter through the opportunities and make sure that we're bringing the best opportunities into the company. From environmental, social, and governance, this has become a very important topical point in the industry. It's something that fundamentally we have done since day one. You cannot build these types of portfolios in these jurisdictions without very, very strong social and governance. That's an important part of what we do, and we do that every day from the ground up and from top down. Environmentally, there's very, very good laws and what I would call procedures and policies in Eastern Europe, and we really take the best practices from North America as well as local practices. Now, just moving on to the portfolio side, what we really love about this graphic is just to show people what it's like. This is an image of the Bohr mines in the background, as well as the Chukaru-Peki deposit, which is one of the bright stars right now of not only the district, but the copper industry. What you see here is a community that is really intertwined with the local mining, and that is very, very unique. The only other area that I can say that we've seen this in great deal of success, for example, is in Eastern Canada in the Sudbury region. So what does that look like in terms of the belt? So our land package is here in the Timic region. This is eastern Serbia, and that's where you saw that image of the Bor town, which is right here in the center. And then as you move towards the southeast along the upper Cretaceous portion of the belt, you see another important mining camp, which is called Panagurishta. And then further down to the southeast, another important or emerging mining camp called the Rhodops. And I can certainly come back to all of these. So really focusing in here on Timic. This is by all measures a world-class mining district. When you see over 100 years of mining from multiple porphyry systems and still well over 4 billion tons of porphyries remain to be mined, that brings attention, and certainly it's brought the attention of a lot of the seniors. So in the prior graphic, you saw a lot of big names, and that's really why they're here. They're hunting for more of these types of systems. Now, we were able to establish a land package here back in 2011, which was before the Čukaru-Peki discovery. And that's why we've been able to build out such an important land package and really, partner with established and known operators, known mining companies, in order to create those further discoveries along this belt. And that, we think, is a really important part of success in this jurisdiction. It also has got quite a healthy M&A activity, which is, it's for a district like this that's not as well known. It's pretty exciting and interesting to see that all the major miners are here, as well as a lot of M&A transactions, which, of course, investors can benefit from. And one of the best known ones, of course, is Reservoir, which was taken out by Nevsun for about 600 million. And then Nevsun was then acquired by Zijing for about 1.4 billion. And Zijing is now the operator of the Bor mines and the developer of the Čukaru-Peki deposit. So really interesting time, and certainly deposits that get discovered here obviously get a lot of attention from the miners. So one of our projects in the region is called Borsko. This is a project that is currently in joint venture between Mundoro and Jogmec. Jogmec is the Japanese oil and gas metal economics division. It is a government entity that is looking for base metal opportunities globally. They became involved with us in 2016. They like the opportunities that are presented in the belt, and certainly the land package that Mundoro brings to partners. In this particular license, so you see the triangle here, which is just west of the Bor complex. Now, that's a really interesting opportunity. It's so, when porphyries, the reason why, you hear those famous sayings of the best place to find a deposit is in the shadow of a head frame. Well, that's because structures control a lot of these features. So when you see a mineralized, kind of trend, and this trend has 3, open pit porphyry mines within a few kilometers of each other, that structure is very important. And that's why proximity to the structures, and certainly parallel structures, is an extremely important part of a land package. We certainly have that on the west side with Borsko, and certainly on the east side as well with our Dubrava and Padina licenses. So on the west side, this is in JV with Jogmec. What we've done, because this is all an undercover area, and maybe Brandon, this would be the right point to show the first video on Borsko. Okay, so this is what you see here. You can see those mines in the background. You can see their pits, underground. And what you see here is the first startings of the alteration system that we've discovered underground. It was a blind discovery. It's amazing that these can occur. It was primarily based on geophysics and structural interpretation. And you can see that the holes have gone in, testing a number of different geophysical features. And then really at the center is that alteration called Target 1, which we, every company needs some luck in the beginning. So what you see on the east side, or on the right-hand side of the page there, is the Čukaru-Peki porphyry system. And you can see the depth of that. So we're really in the kind of the upper areas of our alteration. And what we're looking for in our program is to see that transition of more intensity in the alteration, getting closer to potassic alteration, so that we can see ideally a porphyry system close by. These types of alteration, they don't occur in isolation. They're really as a result of some form of an intrusive and ideally a porphyry system. So we have seen mineralization in the top part of the alteration, which again is another indication that there's likely a porphyry close by. And that is what drives a lot of exploration, is the hunt for that kind of a system. So that's something that we will be continuing to work on, and it's currently a 51-49 JV with Jogmec, and we are talking about looking for more partners with experience in deeper exploration. So that's something to look out for with us in 2021. And going back to our slides, I'm going to go back to so the next slide is the Vale Mundoro projects. So this is a sequence of 4 licenses that we optioned out to Vale last year. We have started an exploration program here. We're excited about the results that are going to be coming in. Basically, what we've done is a very large-scale geochemical program over these 2 license areas, as well as a ground magnetics program. We do already have some CSAMT and IP over select areas, but we're starting with the basics, which is the geochemistry and the ground magnetics. We do have some historical drilling in the area. We're compiling that all in one database, and we're going to be selecting drill targets with the hope that we can be drilling those by the end of the year. So that's something to watch out for with our company announcements by the end of the year. And then our next slide is moving on to Savinac and Bačevica. And maybe, Brandon, you can pull up that video. And basically, this is a license area that was, this one's Borsko. Basically, just as we get to the video, I'm just going to go over a little bit of background. With this license area, this was in option with Freeport for about 18 months. The company spent 3.2 million. Freeport spent 3.2 million US on the projects, and as a result of one of their decisions to globally drop a lot of their early stage programs, this project reverted back to us 100%. And this is what's really interesting about this model, is that you can have partners fund a substantial exploration program, and yet the asset is still yours at the end if they decide to leave. So that, we think, is really important, unique part of the business model. And sorry, this is the Železnik project. We're just looking for the Savinac and Bačevica video. One more, the last one on there. And I think what's important for investors as you're looking for, there we go, that's the right video. As you're looking for, investment opportunities, to really understand the model of what the company is offering. What we're offering is land packages with partner spending, and then those unique royalty opportunities at the back end. And because those opportunities, those royalties can become so lucrative, it still establishes a very valuable opportunity for the company. So for us, it's not about drill hole to drill hole. It's about partnerships, how much partners are funding, how many targets get tested every year, and then what those partnerships can fund in terms of revenue in the company. So I'm just going to switch back to the slides. And one other opportunity that we have is the Železnik license area. It's at the north end of Timok. This is just north of the Majdanpek mine. Again, a long strike, a long structure. We have already discovered a porphyry system in the west zone, and a massive sulfides, kind of a VMS almost style system on the east zone. Those 2 particular areas definitely merit more drilling, as well as a copper and gold discovery in the central area and in the northern area that haven't even been drill tested yet. We are talking to companies about optioning out this portfolio, this part of the portfolio. And again, that's another news item to be thinking about in Mundoro. So just to summarize, the quality of the portfolio is really in a world-class district. This is very unique. This is kind of a unique feature of Mundoro's ability to establish land packages. We've got the lowest G&A structure in our peers, which allows us to really make sure that every dollar is going into generating a portfolio, bringing on partners, and having those partners spend. We do have a great pipeline of projects, not only ones where we already have the license, but also a healthy pipeline of applications. Copper and gold is our focus. I haven't talked a lot about the copper and gold markets because I'm assuming that you've probably sat through a lot of presentations where you've already been updated. But one of the fundamental core beliefs that we have is that the copper commodity it is truly a commodity, supply and demand driven. The world cannot continue to function the way that it does without, good, stable copper supply. We have seen a very, very constrained marketplace on copper exploration. There's very few companies that do it. It's very expensive to do it, which is why the partner model is so important. But also, companies that when you don't have a large ecosystem of exploration in copper, that expertise gets funneled into very few individuals. And so there's also a glut on the technical side. And that's something that we've been able to amass in the company for the last 10 years. And again, we're really focused on the copper and gold porphyry and epithermal systems in the Tethian belt. And we do see opportunities for leveraging our expertise into other areas, and hence the opportunities for new discoveries in the region. We're trading certainly below where our peers are trading on that price to revenue multiple. So we think there's a really good opportunity for a revaluation of 3 to 4 times where we're trading now, just based on the existing portfolio. And we think that's exciting, and certainly happy to discuss that with shareholders and investors. So that's the end of my presentation. So I would love to be able to answer questions, Brandon.
Absolutely. And thank you very much, Teo, for all of that. And I have an all new respect for our producer with all the videos. That I'm usually the one speaking on the side, not in the video side. So I do apologize for that, but I appreciate you.
I know that it takes a little bit of time for the audio and video to come back on. So if everyone can add their questions to the Q&A.
Absolutely. And I believe our investors may see me already, but sometimes between our speakers, there is a little bit of a delay there. So I appreciate everyone's patience with that. But by the nodding from yourself, Teo, I can imagine that you're hearing me at this moment. So I was just saying earlier, I appreciate going through the detail and all of that. And I had an all new respect for our producers getting those videos up there. I'm always the one speaking, not the one pushing, but you handle that perfectly. And I appreciate the visuals of that, adding to everything that you're doing as well. A lot of people, that's how they learn. They want to be able to see it. They can make more sense out of it. So I appreciate that. But why don't we jump into it's a basic question, but a very important question. And it's, what are the next steps for Mundoro? If someone's watching this right now, whether they're a brand new investor, or maybe they've been in your company for a little bit, and they really want to be seeing what's next in store for you and your team, what would that be?
So a really important part of what we're doing right now is to bring in another partner for particularly the licenses in Serbia. So we have been very active over the last 6 months in signing CAs, going through due diligence, going through discussions. That's an active part of our business. And what we really want to be able to demonstrate by the end of this year, if not sooner, is a minimum of 1 more partner in Serbia for the 3 properties that we have available for optioning. So that's a really important catalyst. And like I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have started an exploration program on the Vale projects, and something that we hope to be able to announce by the end of the year is that we will be drill testing those targets with our partner Vale.
Beautiful. I'm glad to hear. A next question I have is, you have impressive JV partners. Can you tell us about how these relationships came into fruition?
That is a good question. The part of it is just relationships in the industry, and part of it is the calling card of TMIC. When you're in a district, just anyone kind of imagine this. When you start looking for opportunities, you first look around, well, who's doing this already? And when you look at the Timok district and you look at the Western Tethian, there's not a lot of exploration companies, and yet the phenomenal upside in more copper and gold resources is, and it's kind of a point that jumps out at everyone. So oftentimes we get a lot of inbound calls. So a lot of the groups that are looking at the district will call us up and say, we noticed that you guys have a really interesting land package. We're really interested to talk about what you're learning and what you guys have. And, is there opportunities for us to collaborate? And that's just a testament to the portfolio and also to the team's really rigorous exploration programs. Our data sets and our information is kind of put together in a format where we know what our partners expect. And so we develop all of our targets in that kind of format, and everything is very much kind of like a turnkey decision for them. And we think that's very helpful when you try and build these types of joint ventures or option agreements. It's really important to make it as easy as possible for the group coming in to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, well said. Another question we have here is, what is so compelling about the Tethian belt? And forgive me if I've pronounced that wrong.
What is so compelling about the Tethian belt? Okay, that's a great question. And there's many different ways to answer that. And so let's start with just kind of like the obvious. There is a lot of mineral potential. And when we say mineral potential, how is that filtered through in the marketplace? We will, as an industry, fundamentally, the reason why governments invest in mapping and everybody has geological units is because they want to demonstrate mineral wealth. So when you start in a region, you start to look at their local geological maps. You start to look at what kind of data they've compiled. And when you see thousands and thousands of mineral prospects that are not claimed, you as a company, you kind of sit back and you think, all right, well, how much of that is real? What does the rock actually look like there? How many large deposits are there? What's the infrastructure around that? What's fascinating about the Tethian belt, and certainly the western portion here, is that you check off the boxes in terms of mineral prospectivity is excellent. Claiming over the land is not very high, just because a lot of companies have not had a lot of experience in the region. And again, we think that's a tremendous opportunity for us because we know how to operate here. And then you have the infrastructure. And when you have all of those three things, that makes this part of the belt extremely compelling. For example, what's missing in the central part of the belt is the infrastructure, right? So you don't have that same access. You also don't even have access sometimes to data. Certainly, this is very well understood between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. I mean, Mexico has for years mapped their region, provided free geophysics, which has really made their industry flourish in terms of natural resources. You can't make discoveries if you don't have information of where to go. South America woke up to that in the 1980s. They changed a lot of their mineral laws in order to have those three check boxes. And certainly Europe, Eastern Europe has really done that in the last 10 to 15 years. So that it's an emerging opportunity.
Gotcha. I appreciate that. The next question here is, are you focused more on gold or copper? Which is the more important for your company?
That's a great question. Certainly, we believe strongly in copper. We believe that there is fundamentally a much bigger demand for really good copper deposits. And, just for example, yesterday you saw that with Newmont's CEO saying, they're going bigger into copper. I think what's really important, so commodities all go up and down. I think the question is, what's more valuable over the long term? For partners, the type of partners that we have, their real value is to have a multi-decade mine. Mines that can exist for 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years. once you have an operation that size, you will go through cycles in your commodities. So what you want is the commodities, to those minerals that are in your deposit, to be able to generate a profit or some form of a return over the span of the operation. So when you say, you know, what's more important, I think both are important, because at certain points in time, your precious metal component will be an important part of your economics for that deposit. Other times, fundamentally, everyone that we talk to is, you know, looking at the copper side, but the gold side is important. So a lot of the systems in Eastern Europe are copper and gold. Sometimes, depending on the commodity prices, gold becomes the more valuable component of the deposit versus copper, and oftentimes that also changes. In Mexico, you see that between silver and gold. So a lot of the systems there are very silver rich and gold rich, whereas in Eastern Europe, you get a lot of the porphyries that are very mixed between copper and gold.
Gotcha, and I appreciate the detailed answer on that one. We've got another question here. This one is from Bernie, and he asked, how has the Zion investment in Bor impacted the district, and has there been any impacts on Mundoro?
The Zijing investment, I think it has actually done a really good thing for the district. It has, so all mining jurisdictions or all mining camps need investment. They need the basics. So for example, road access, rail access, you know, all the established services around that. The more investment a mining complex gets, the better it is for that entire camp. So the fact that Zijing came in and spent, I mean, they spent about $1 billion for the tender into the local Serbian assets, and then additional $1.4 billion to acquire Nefsen, and now we're investing an additional $300 million in Majdanpek. I mean, those are phenomenal investments, and that is very, very good for the Timok region. It spills over into every company that's operating there, because those benefits will last for, you know, decades in terms of investment. So I think it's been very positive, and we'll see in terms of how that translates into the company's share price, which I think has been also been going up.
Yeah, absolutely. And very quickly to Alexander in our chat, asked, do you have this presentation on your website? I absolutely am sure they do, but there's also, if you go into this platform where you see chat where you're just writing in, and there's the Q&A function where you can put your questions, and there's something called handouts. If you want to click on that, you'll be able to download this presentation at this moment. You can go ahead and do that on your device. Otherwise, Teo, I can only imagine this or a very similar one will be on your website as well.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
So we have another question here. You'd spoken about why you believed you were undervalued, and can you go a little bit more detailed than that? They're asking that exact question. Why do you think you are undervalued? If you can go into that in detail for some of our investors who are watching this right now.
Sure. I think I'm just going to switch over to that slide, which is this one here. So this kind of gives you a sense of, you know, what the royalty generators and what the royalty companies generate in terms of top line growth. It would be great to compare everyone based on cash flow, but that's not possible, even sometimes on EBITDA. So you have to pick one common denominator amongst all the companies. And certainly top line revenue is the common denominator here. So when you look at that and you look at a company's ability to generate, you know, revenue from their portfolio, this is the group here that anyone that has more than $100,000 a year on a consistent 3-year basis is basically identified in the chart. And what you can see here is that on average, the junior peers are trading at about 170 times their revenue. And really what investors are expecting there is growth, right? So, but the growth rate is about 10% consistently over the last 3 years. Whereas Mundoro, we're trading at 39 times price to revenue, again, based on the exact same metrics. And our revenue is actually higher than the industry peers. And on top of that, we've been growing at about 56 times. So when you do that comparison, you can very clearly see that we're undervalued next to our peers. So getting out there, talking about the company, communicating, you know, this opportunity, I think is an important part. And certainly that's why we believe that with a little bit more market attention, that value gap will change.
Absolutely. And do you believe that some investors may not understand your story by chance? I know in a lot of newer investors, there's been a lot of new investors who have come into this space, but just in general, when people think of whether you're looking into gold, whether you're looking silver, whether they're able to fully understand what it is that you're doing, do you think there's a discrepancy there? Do you think they're not seeing something, or do you believe it's just like you were saying earlier? These will play themselves out. The investors will start seeing that. And when you start trying to compare it to companies that are very similar to you, you can start seeing just how undervalued you are. But do you think there's any other thing that might lead to that?
It's hard to speak to what investors are seeing or not. What we basically show, I mean, look, it's you have to believe fundamentally in copper and gold. We're exposed to both, and that's an important part of our story. The senior partner model, we think, is an extremely important part of the story. I think that investors have to really understand the difference between an exploration company that has, let's say, one key asset and is raising capital in order to drill that asset, in order to create a deposit, and ideally that's what that investor is investing for. With Mundoro, it's not about one project, it's not about one partner, it's not about one drill program. It's really, you're getting a diversified portfolio that gives you exposure to copper and gold, and as well, you're getting leveraged by other capital. And like I mentioned, Freeport was optioned 2 projects for us for 18 months and invested $3.2 million US. If Mundoro had to go out into the marketplace and raise that money, that would have caused, at least a 40% dilution to investors. We didn't have to do that. Investors didn't get diluted. We got a tremendous opportunity. We got drill targets that were drill tested, data that was collected, and now we believe the data set is even stronger for another partner. That's leverage for our investors. So you're not investing for a drill hole, you're investing for a portfolio to generate revenue and returns and partners, so that when that discovery does happen, you get all that better kind of upside.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the, explaining that as well. Because again, I think some investors, they don't always know when we're going into different companies, and especially ones that have all these different elements within that company. So like you said, it's not just going for one property. It's not just going for one asset. It's so much more than that. And you're able to almost, I don't know if I can use the word de-risk. I'm not a financial advisor, so that might be risky to say that. But in general, you get better exposure to these various different metals across many more properties and partners, like you were saying as well. So Teo, I appreciate very much the time you've taken today to go over this, to answer these questions as well. If investors are watching this, where can they turn to find out more information? Maybe contact you if they didn't want to put questions in here, but they'd like to email you a question. Where can they turn to?
Absolutely. They can contact it. We have a website that we update quite regularly. We've also got a really good Twitter and LinkedIn feed. So by all means, engage with us on Twitter or LinkedIn, or good old fashioned email as well, info@mundoro.com. We monitor that every day. We've also got an opportunity on our website if people want to set up a meeting directly. There's a link there for our virtual coffee, and you can schedule that directly with us. And that gives you one-on-one opportunity for questions and talking about the company.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that very much. For anybody watching this, either during this presentation or when it's on YouTube afterwards, please, we always suggest to reach out to companies, find out more information. You'd be very surprised how much they will answer you. Teo, I can imagine that you'd love to speak with investors and answer them. So we do encourage that very much. But I appreciate very much for your time, and thank you for your day. And for all of our investors, we will be moving on to our next webinar very shortly. It's a little bit of time now to go grab a coffee. I know it's a long day to relax, and we'll see you back in about 10 minutes or so. So Teo, once more, thank you very much for presenting today.
Great. Thank you.
Take care now.